Scooby-Doo in Sea Monster Scare. Written by Gail Herman and illustrated by Dendes Del Sur. It was a perfect day for the beach. "Let's row," Scooby-Doo said to his friends. "Scooba's right," Shaggy said. "Surf's up." Velma pulled a wagon. It was filled with shovels and pails and flags. "I'm ready to make a one-of-a-kind sandcastle," she said. Scooby pulled another wagon. It was filled with sandwiches and pizza, hot dogs, and tons of chips. "We're ready for a one-of-a-kind lunch," Shaggy said. "This is a good spot," said Velma. She took everything from the wagon. Then she filled the pails with sand. Fred turned them over, and Daphne lifted them up. "This sandcastle will be perfect," said Velma. This sandwich is perfect," said Shaggy. Scooby and Shaggy ate their way through piles of food. Finally, they burped. "Like, we're all done," said Shaggy. "Us too," said Velma. Shaggy and Scooby looked over. Their jaws dropped. "Holy cow!" said Shaggy. The castle had moats and bridges and winding steps. Flags flew from the towers. "It is good," Velma agreed. "Like, I'm not talking about the castle," said Shaggy. "We're out of food." "Out of food?" Daphne laughed. "And we didn't even have a bite," said Fred. Scooby hung his head. "Rory." "Sorry," Shaggy echoed. "How about Scoob and I make a food run? There's a snack shack down on the beach." Scooby and Shaggy set off. A little while later, they were back. At least, they thought they were. They saw the blanket, they saw Velma's book, but that was all. "Zoinks!" said Shaggy. "Everyone has disappeared, and so has the sandcastle." All around them, people snatched up blankets. They threw books, bottles of sunscreen, and other things into beach bags. They rushed away. "Something horrible has happened," cried Shaggy. "We need clues." Scooby gazed out to sea. "Look!" he gasped. A giant sea serpent rode the waves. "Like, that thing did it," said Shaggy. "It took the sandcastle and the gang." Shouts rang out across the water. "It's getting closer," Shaggy cried. Scooby yelped, "Run, Raggy!" The buddies took off. They jumped over people, they scooted around umbrellas, but the sea serpent was close behind. It was coming onto the beach. "A surfboard, Scoob!" Shaggy shouted. "Quick, hop on!" A moment later, they bounced along the waves. "Like hang ten, Scoob," Shaggy said. But they couldn't surf fast enough. The monster was closing in. The sea grew rough. Scooby and Shaggy hung on, wave after wave, up and down, up and down. Scooby turned green. "Don't lose your lunch, good buddy," Shaggy said. Up, down, up, down. Shaggy turned green, too. All at once, a giant wave crashed over them. Shaggy clung to Scooby. Scooby clung to Shaggy. Whoosh! Up, up, up they went. The surfboard went one way, Scooby and Shaggy went the other way. They hung in the air, then they dropped fast, right onto the back of the sea serpent. "Help! Help!" they cried. "Don't worry," said Velma. "We're right here." Scooby spun around. Velma, Fred, and Daphne were on the serpent's back, too. "We've got to get off!" Shaggy screamed. "Relax," said Fred. "The ride will be over soon." Ride, said Shaggy. The serpent gives rides? It's not a real monster, said Daphne. It's a float. Scooby and Shaggy gazed around. People were laughing and having fun. But what about the people on the beach? Asked Shaggy. Why did they run away? And what about the sandcastle? I thought a monster wiped it out. The sandcastle is gone? Velma gasped. Then she sighed. It must have been the tide. That's what happens with sandcastles. The tide sweeps them away. And those people? They were only moving away from the water. The monster float stopped with a bump. They were back at their spot at the beach. Like, forget the sandcastle, said Shaggy. All our food has been swept away too. Rack rack, said Scooby. Snack shack, agreed Shaggy. Scooby-Dooby-Doo!